This just sounds like I need to read it. Like it's something, there's too many things that I can relate to in that. Obviously, not the murder stuff, but the other stuff. I don't know what happened in this book. Like, what was going on? I'm not sure. Like, what was the point of it? I don't know. Hello, friends. March was an interesting month. So, I don't know if you guys watched my previous videos, but I was traveling. I was in Korea at the beginning of March. And so, when I got back like sometime in the first week of March, and post-concert depression, and because I went to a few concerts in Korea, so post-concert depression and post-travel depression led me to reading a lot of books and escaping from the real world. And so I ended up reading 21 books in March, which is actually insane. A lot of them were graphic novels that were like, I read really quickly, but still, 21 books is still an insane amount. But anyways, I have my matcha. I have the one of the two physical books that I read this month, and yeah, let's get started. Let's get into the 21 books that I read in March. So first, let me give you guys some statistics. Like I said, I read a total of 21 books in March. The total number of pages I read was 6,849. My top 3 moods were dark, mysterious, and adventurous. So my top genre for this month was young adult, and I read apparently 8 books that were in that category. And then the next was romance, and I read 6 books that were in the romance category. And then the next 4 genres were all 5 books, and that was dystopian, LGBTQ, mystery, science fiction. So a lot of different kind of books, but very much books that I tend to love, genres I tend to love. So yeah. And then most of the books that I read were digital books. I only read 2 of my physical TBR, which I'm going to work on. This April is going to be a month where I read more physical books. I have so many, like it's so bad, you guys. Like I have over 100 books on my TBR, physical books on my TBR, and I'm running out of space. So I need to stop buying books and I need to start reading the books I already own. And literally, even like I said, I read 2 books out of the 21 books. Only 2 of them were from my physical TBR, and that's because one of them I bought. So yeah, I need to stop buying books. I need to read what I already have. And yeah. So anyways, moving on. The average rating for all the books that I read was 3.65, which is lower than my usual. A lot of 4-star reads, some 5-star reads. So there was a 1-star read too, which is interesting. And then this is what it looked like, pages in March 2025. So that was all for the statistics. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about all the books that I read in March. So I started the month with The Golden Raven by Nora Sakavic because it came out a few days like sometime in the end of February, and so I was waiting so I knew that if I read that or like started that in Korea, I was gonna stay in bed all day just reading that and not exploring. And so I knew that I could not read it when I was there. So as soon as I left, literally on the flight back home, I started and read like more than half of the book. And then the next day I finished it. So I read that in 2 sittings, obviously. And obviously it still had, the pain and the stuff, like the angst and all of that I have come to expect from her books, but it also had so much comfort. Yeah, just like comfort being back in that world, being back with the characters, and like just all of that. And like my one thought after finishing was like, I need 1,000 more pages of it, and that I need like some snippets of just more of Jean and Rex's like interactions. Like I need more. Yeah, that's what I thought at the end of it, and I love it, and I can't wait for book 3, and I'm so excited. And I have been thinking, like, before starting Golden Raven, even before starting Sunshine Court, which I read in February, I was thinking that I should read the first three books again, and I was thinking of doing that, but then I didn't have time. So I'm hoping sometime this year that I'll do a reread, or like at least like if we get a release date for the third book, whenever we get that, like I'll start rereading the first five books again. So at some point, I'm gonna read the first three books, The Foxhole Court, The Raven King, The King's Men, and then I'm gonna reread The Sunshine Court, and then The Golden Raven, and then be ready for the third book in this part of the series. So yeah, I loved it. I think the fact that I was in a reading slump, like kind of all of February, and like it was really hard to get started on reading again. And I did get started on reading in Korea, but like reading this and like I said, the post concert depression and the post travel depression was just like, I need more. Like I was like, I need to escape again. And like this book was the perfect like starter for that, because like staying up so late to read a book and like just reading in a book in two sittings, reading it so fast, like not wanting to do anything besides reading that book, kind of like got me like, I need to find more books that will make me feel this way. And so I think that's also another reason why I read so much this month. So, and then after that, I finally finished. So I think another reason for why I was in such a slump in February is because I was reading this book. And I think I mentioned this in my February wrap up too, but I was reading this book for like a really long time in February, and like I finally made myself finish it right after finishing Golden Raven, because I knew it was like making me fall in a slump, and I needed to finish it so that I could move on to other books. And yeah, I finished it. And so that book was Rani Chaudhary Must Die by Adiba Jaigirdar. I have read almost everything by this author and have enjoyed everything by this author pretty much. And this one just wasn't it for me. I did not like Meghna at all. And a lot of the reasoning and stuff just did not make sense to me. Like the character did not feel like someone I wanted to read about. So I think that was like making me not want to pick it up again and again, which is why, but like at the same time, I wanted to keep reading and finish it. So I didn't want to like DNF it basically. And so like, I think that's what was causing my slump, because I kept being like, no, but I need to finish this right now, like before I pick up another book. And so, yeah, that was my issue. Also, the romance was very lackluster. Like, we barely got anything, and like there was no like build up to it kind of, and like I don't know, it's just all her other stuff that I've read I've enjoyed way more like than I enjoyed this. And so it was like quite disappointing to read this one, but I will still keep reading her works, obviously. Okay, next was This Book Kills by Ravena Guron. This book came to me randomly. I think I saw like an Instagram post or something or the other, and I was like, this sounds cool. And so I got it on Libby and then just ended up reading it in like one or two sittings. It's a YA mystery book, and YA mystery is one of my favorite genres. And yeah, I did not have any idea that the main character was of Indian descent, or just that like, you know, there was gonna be any kind of representation that I would be, you know, looking out for in this book. But I was very happy about that. And also it was crazy because like I picked this book up randomly because I saw a post, and then the main character in this book turned out to have the same last name as one of the main characters in the previous book I read. So the main character in This Book Kills was Jess Choudhary, and one of the main characters in the previous book is Rani Chaudhary. And so I was like, how like it's just insane how that like happened. Like it's such a big coincidence. But yeah, anyways, this was a YA mystery book set in a boarding school. That was one of the reasons why I picked it up in the first place is because it was set in a boarding school. Because one, I love YA mysteries, and then two, I went to boarding school as well. And the girl, the main character in it, is of Indian descent. So I was like, this just sounds great. Like, this just sounds like I need to read it. Like, it's something, there's too many things that I can relate to in that. Obviously not the murder stuff, but the other stuff. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good mystery, and I will definitely be checking out more of her works because I liked the writing, I liked the mystery aspect, I loved, yeah, the vibes of it, everything was good. Like, I did guess the stuff at the, like, I did guess the stuff like pretty quick, but I still liked the way it like played out in the end. So after that, I read Graveyard Shift by ML Rio. This was a short story novella book about these people who meet in the graveyard, and then they see something that's like that they can't make sense of, I guess, in the graveyard. And so like they all kind of start uncovering things and all. But like, even now, after finish, like, even when I finished it, like at the start of the month, and now my thought is still the same. Like, it's still like, I don't know what happened in this book. Like, what was going on? I'm not sure. Like, what was the point of it? I don't know. So yeah, it like, I was going along for the ride and like going along with their like, research and like them like uncovering what was going on and stuff. But like, I don't know. It did not affect me or add anything to my life, or like, it wasn't even that fun, kind of. So I was like, okay. But yeah, and this was my first ML Rio. I have heard a lot about If We Were Villains. I have the book. I haven't read it yet, but I'm hoping, I mean, everybody talks about that and talks about how good that is. So I'm still obviously gonna read it, and I'm still expecting good things from that. But this one was disappointing. So yeah. And then after that, I read a graphic novel called 2345, aka 1145. And this was so cute. It's like a very, like, the trope in it is like so popular, and like, so, I knew the ending way before. Like, as soon as I started it, I knew the ending, like, and what was gonna happen. But it was still so cute and so well done. The art was so cute, and just like their relationship and like the way it like grows, and like how they like become involved in each other's life, kind of, and stuff. Like, it was just very nice to see. And yeah, I had a great time reading it. So yeah. And then after that, I read This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. I don't want to talk a lot about this book, but I would not recommend it. You can check the Goodreads reviews of many other people who have like talked a lot more in detail about this book. And yeah, I did not know any of that before I read it, and I enjoyed it when I read it. But then while reading the reviews after, I found out about things, and so yeah. Next, I read another graphic novel. This was called Love on the Horizon. It was the first volume. This was also so cute. It was so sweet and so cute and so soft and so heartwarming, and just good vibes, just fun, good vibes. Like, I read this like at night before bed. Like, I was tired and like just needed some warm, cozy vibes, and this gave me that. So if you're looking for that kind of graphic novel, I would recommend. And the art is really cute, and the cover also, like, yeah, it's really cute. So I highly recommend it. Next, another graphic novel I read, it was the Ayakashi Hunter's Tainted Bride, Volume 1. This was not my thing. Yeah, I don't think I was the audience for this. So yeah. Next, I read Finlay, Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead by Elle Cosimano. I started this series, I think, in January or maybe in February. But yeah, I read the first book recently, and so this was the second book in the series. And just, yeah, I'm like enjoying going on the ride. I love Finlay and Vero's, chemistry, and like their, like just the way they are with each other, like their conversations and how they're like they got each other's back, and like it's just funny interactions and stuff, but also like the cozy mystery vibe of it and like cozy thriller vibe of it. Yeah, like it's fun. Like I have been getting more and more into cozy mysteries, like with Richard Osman's We Solve Murders and like all that stuff. Like I've been enjoying cozy mysteries a lot more recently, and this every time I'm in that mood, like I have, because this series, Finlay Donovan series, has like so many books. I think there's like 5 or 6 at this point, and so whenever I was in the mood, I just picked up the next one. And so yeah, I read this one and it was fun. Like I enjoyed going back to the story, going back to the characters, and Finlay and Vero's dynamics, and then also just the lawyer student, law student, and the policeman, and like all of that stuff. And then the kids, oh my god, they're so funny too. Like, I feel like her writing has been going better and better as the books go on, and like the dialogues are getting so much more sharp and witty. And yeah, anyways, I read, actually, like in this month I read Finlay Donovan Knocks Him Dead, the second book. Then I also read the third book, which was Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun, after a couple books. And then I also read Veronica Ruiz Breaks the Bank, which is the novella 3.5 book. And so I read 3 of the books in the series this month, and that was just because they're like easy to go through, and also just I was in that mood, I guess. And so that's what I felt reading them. Like her writing is getting much better and better, and also just like the dialogues and interactions are getting more witty and humorous, and I'm just enjoying it. With Veronica Ruiz Breaks the Bank, there was less of that for me, and I was less invested also, though, because the main thing that I'm looking for in these books and in this series specifically is Vero's and Finlay's dynamic and their like banter and stuff. And obviously, they didn't have that in this one, because this is about how Vero came to be Finlay's nanny and accountant, whatever. So there was less, I mean, only towards the end we get to see them together in the book, but like in the beginning, like I was not all that invested, because like I love Vero, but like her character, her personality comes out best when she's interacting with Finlay. And so because we didn't have that in this book, it was like grabbing me less, and I was less interested, I guess, because it's also like a lot of the information about what happens to her before is stuff we know from the third book at least. So yeah. Anyways, going back to the list. So I finished the second book, Finlay Donovan Knocks Him Dead, and then after that I read another graphic novel, and it's called I Will Love You Till Your Dying Day, and it's the first volume. This one was also pretty good. I liked the art style in this as well. I feel like this one was like still very much just setting the scene and setting the characters up, and like the later volumes we're gonna get to know more and go deeper, but like there were a lot of things in it that I'm still curious about, so I'm excited to continue the series whenever the next book comes out. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I think it was a very interesting storyline, and also just like mysterious storyline. Like I'm excited to know more of the backstory for both the characters in it. So yeah. And then and then this was like a week before Sunrise on the Reaping was gonna come out, and I was like I wanted to know everything there was to know about Hamish's game, and about Hamish and his characterization and who he was in the original trilogy, because I wanted to have that image of him before I went into this book, so that I would know who he was and how the 50th Hunger Games and his games and all the events that happened in his life in Sunrise on the Reaping turned him into the guy we saw in the Hunger Games series. And so 1 week before release, like almost, actually I think it might have been even like less than a week before the release, I decided to read all the Hunger Games books. And so that was interesting. My full vlog is up there. You can check it out. But it was interesting. I also the entire time before I started reading the books, I thought I had read these books. I had thought that I had read them in 2013 when I was reading all the dystopian books like Divergent and like all the Legend series and all those things. I thought this was a series also that I had read at that time. And I started the books and I realized that I had not. That I had only seen the movies, and that's why I thought that I had read the books. And so it was my first time reading The Hunger Games, which was very interesting. The writing obviously kept improving over the series, and then it was the best in Ballad of Songbird and Snakes, but it still grabbed my attention really, really well because of the storyline and the plot and the characters, obviously. And so it also felt like a lot of like just recalling the books, recalling the scenes and like what happens in the books because I'd seen the movie and it was still quite fresh in my mind. So I read The Hunger Games, I read Catching Fire, and then I read Mockingjay, and then I read Ballad of Songbird and Snakes, and after that I read Sunrise on the Reaping. That was, yeah, a wild ride. Yeah. Hunger Games and Catching Fire just like grabbed my attention so well. I finished both those books in one day. And then Mockingjay took 2 days. I think I read it in two sittings. And then Ballad of Songbird and Snakes also took 2 days, I think. And I also listened to that on audiobook while I was reading the physical book because with the Ballad of Songbird and Snakes, the writing was really good and it was like really well done, but the movie was so fresh in my mind because I'd watched it much more recently than I'd watched The Hunger Games because I'd watched The Hunger Games like 10 years ago, maybe, or like even more. And I watched Songbird and Snakes when it came out, which was I think like 2 years ago or something. So it was much more fresh in my mind. And also, I feel like with Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay, there were still things in the books that were not in the movies, but or like was changed in the movies. But with Ballad of Songbird and Snakes, I feel like it was a very good adaptation in how similar it was in the books and the movies. And so, yeah, I feel like I am glad, obviously, to to have read it because there were mentions of things that happened in Ballad of Songbird and Snakes that happened in like that were relevant to Sunrise on the Reaping, and also just got me to properly refresh everything that I saw in Songbird and Snakes so that I could be ready for this. And I am glad I read it because of those things. So yeah, obviously you can't redeem Snow in no matter what, and the author did not try to do that either, and she just showed how he became who he is, but like he was always that man. He was, yeah. So like even the young Snow, like he was never a good guy is the thing, and he was never a character that I could root for, and she was not trying to aim for that either. And so while I was reading it, like I was interested in all the stuff I was learning about the Hunger Games and the world and like all of that more. But when it comes to the characters, like I was uncomfortable being in Snow's head so much. But that was the point of the book, obviously. Anyway, so I read the 5 Hunger Games books. And after that, I was like, I need a breather. And so I went back to the cozy mystery. And that's when I read the 3rd book in the Finlay Donovan series, which was Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun, which I already talked about. And then after that, I also read Veronica Ruiz Breaks the Bank, which I also talked about. After that, I went back to another series that I love, and that was Before the Coffee Gets Cold series by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I read, I think it was the 5th book in the series. It's called Before We Forget Kindness, and this was one of the physical TBR books that I read, and the other was obviously Sunrise on the Reaping, which I bought the day of release. But yeah, so I read Before We Forget Kindness by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I love this series. This series never fails to bring me the warm, cozy, comfy vibes that I need. And so whenever I'm in the mood for that, I just end up picking the next book in this series. And yeah, I love it. I'm excited for whatever next comes in this series. I think there is another one coming out probably soon. This one I think came out earlier I think it came out sometime last year. And yeah, I love the series. So, and then after finishing that, I read another graphic novel. This one was one that I was very much looking forward to. This was Atana and the Jade Mermaid. This is the second book in the Atana series. I read the first book a couple months back and really loved it. The message, the art, and just the friends and the found family and all of it was so cute and so comfy and so heartwarming. And yeah, so I was very excited for this, and I read it and I felt the same way as I did the first book. Like, it was warm, cozy, comfy. I loved the characters. I loved even like the story arc and like the conflict and like the problems and then the solving of the problems and stuff. Like, it all just was so well done and just a fun, cozy vibe. Yeah. And then after that, I read another graphic novel. This one is called Fitting Indian by Jyoti Chand, and the artwork is by Tara Anand. And this was so good. It was like very hard to read for me, very uncomfortable because there were so many things I could relate to. But also just like I felt so seen reading it and just so, yeah, it was just so well done, so beautiful, and the artwork was great, obviously, and like, yeah, just it tackles a lot of topics that I wanted to read about, and so yeah, I loved it, and it was, yeah, it was really well done and really real, really honest, really, yeah, I loved it. So yeah. And then the last book that I read in March was for my book club on Fable. It's called First Time Caller by BK Borison. This is the first book in the Heartstring series. It's a Sleeping in Seattle inspired slash adaptation slash like a different modern take, I guess. I've seen the movie and I saw it like a couple years ago, so I knew what to expect from it, but I think it still like did a great job of like being an homage to Sleepless in Seattle, but also having like its own different takes on things. And I loved the characters. I loved the romance of it and like just the whole like radio show and like all of that stuff. I enjoyed all the characters and stuff. Like, yeah, it was pretty good. The writing was not my favorite, or like the writing wasn't as much of my thing, but like the dialogues and the witty like banter and stuff I enjoyed a lot. So that kept me going, I think, while reading this book. But I'm also very much still in my romance slump. So I think that also could have had something to do with me not enjoying the writing as much. So, yeah. Anyways, that was all the 21 books that I read in March. It's crazy. I was not expecting to read this much, especially considering the fact that I think in February I only read 5 books, and I think January was like maybe 8. So yeah, I was not expecting that, but I also don't think April will be the same because I'm already kind of like feeling like I'm getting back into not reading a lot, and like I've been kind of getting back into like K-dramas and movies and stuff, and so I've been watching When Life Gives You Tangerines right now, and so yeah, we'll see how April goes. There are a few books that I'm really hoping to read in April, and so quickly I will share those so I can look back on this video later and see if I actually ended up reading those books or not. So in April, I'm hoping to read the second book in the Legend Born series. Finally, I started Blood Marked by Tracy Dion last year when I read Legend Born, because I finished Legend Born and I was like, I cannot stop. There's no way. And so I need to keep going. But I also knew that Blood Marked apparently ends on a cliffhanger, and Oathbound came this year. So I was like, there's no way I'll be able to wait a year. So I started Blood Marked and I read, I think, like 10-15% of the book, and then I stopped. And I was like, I'm going to read this when Oathbound comes out because there's no way I can do it right now. And so I haven't read Blood Marked yet fully. So I'm hoping to like do a quick refresher on Legend Born and then start Blood Marked again and read the whole thing and read Oathbound. Yeah, so in April, I'm hoping I'll read Blood Marked for sure, and then Oathbound if I can do that. And then for Fable, my book club, the April book that we decided on was Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, which I'm so excited for. I'm really, really like, this is a 16 book series, which is very daunting, but I'm looking forward to reading it and just getting like started on it. So yeah, I'm excited for that. And those are like the two main ones that I'm definitely gonna read this month. And then we'll see. I think, yeah, those two books for sure I want to read, but hopefully I can. Yeah. Anyways, those are the books that I read in March and some of the books that I'm hoping to read in April. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you guys next time. Bye.